Hi, welcome to episode 464 of The Corner of Knit and Tea. My name is Laura. I'm also known as Fluffy Kira on Instagram, Twitter, and Big Sky. I have an Etsy shop called The Corner of Knit and Tea where I sell my handspun patterns and yarns. And you can find all the details on this podcast, show notes, including patterns, etc. on my website called thecornerofknitandtea.com. I hope that you are doing well. It is Monday, March 4th. The weather has sprung here. I can hear the frogs in the creek outside the house. It's not really a creek, it's a drainage ditch, but it's a water feature on the property. I can hear the creek and the frogs and all the bugs, and it is warm and humid out, and we have all the windows in the house open, and it is just an absolutely lovely day, and I hope that you are doing well. I have lots of crafty goodness to show. I also have a project that I'm digging into at work. It is a crafty project. I'll talk about it a little later on, but it is occupying my time. So I think this episode is going to be short and sweet, and so I'm going to go from there. Today I am drinking Numi Orange Spice Tea. And this was just a tea bag that I had. Someone gave it to me, maybe in a swap, and I just grabbed it today. It sounded good, and honestly, it's bringing me back to my days before loose leaf tea. There were two orange teas that I absolutely loved. I really love orange anything, but the two orange teas that I loved were back in the day Starbucks brewed Tivana's wild sweet orange tea. You could get a hot wild sweet orange tea, and that was like my absolute favorite tea. And then before that, I know when I was a kid, I really liked Celestial Seasonings. I think it's Mandarin Orange Spice, and that was delicious. So this smells like that. I haven't tasted it yet. I am drinking it in my Oive all day mug, which is perfect for Mondays. And so the smell, just the smell of the orange and spice is totally bringing me back to that. And this one is a white tea with real orange peel and spice. So, and it tastes delicious. So that is going to get me through my afternoon. So let's talk about what's on the needles. I finished a project. I didn't think I was going to be able to finish this, and then I realized when I turned my attention to it that it actually didn't have that much more to go. I finished my sweater. So I have not washed and blocked it yet, so the ends are woven in, but they are still hanging. You may see one here or there. And the other thing is that I bought buttons on Etsy, and they have not arrived yet. So the sweater isn't, you know, finished, but all the knitting is finished, and I'm gonna go ahead and wash and block it once we're done speaking here today, and I'll get the buttons on it, and maybe I'll bring it back next week to show you, or maybe I'll wear it next week to show you. So this is my Fix It, Finish It, or Frog It February. I ripped the previous sweater and went on to knit a new one. The pattern that I used was the Ramona cardigan, which is by Elizabeth Smith, and you can get it at her website, which is Elizabeth Smith Knits. That is linked in the show notes. And I knit it with Juniper Moon Bud, which is a sort of a boucle cotton yarn, bulky weight, and it came out perfect. So this is what I've got. It still looks kind of big, but it's just lovely. So this is, I've showed you plenty of this before, but the part you've been missing is the bottom, which you can see is now finished. And I have the button bands and buttonholes and collar on there. So it is all ready to go. I'll be able to show it a little bit better once I have the buttons on there, because then I can show it kind of as a buttoned up cardigan. I will put it on the mannequin. I will take nice pictures, and I'll just need to wash it and dry it so that everything lays nice and flat. I just haven't done that yet, but I am done. It ended up taking one more than I had previously. So I started with 7 skeins. I think the pattern called for 850 or 900 yards, so I ordered 2 more so I would have them. And I ended up using 8 skeins, which is... It's 109 yards a skein, so that actually makes sense. I ordered 1 more than I actually needed, but I ordered it just to be safe. I stuck with the pattern description for the length, so I did not modify that at all. I thought I might have to, but I did not. And I basically knit everything per pattern. So it is slightly cropped, but it's got this really nice long hem here, and then it's just a super simple cardigan with just a little bit of garter stitch detailing at the raglan increases. So I've talked about this on a lot of different podcasts before. It is lovely, it fits really nicely, and I am excited to get it washed, blocked, and get the buttons sewn on as soon as they arrive. So I am considering that one done. Now, I did not finish it in February. I finished it on Saturday morning, I think. I had one button band left, and so I finished it on Saturday morning. So it is done, and I'm so happy to have it as a sweater, and I have one extra skein now to figure out what to do with, but I'm sure I can knit a hat or something with it that will be absolutely lovely. So that one is done and finished, and I guess it doesn't count as yarn out of the stash because it had already been in a sweater, but it is finished. I'm super excited. So the next thing that I did is I went back to a project that I had put down when I started that sweater, and that is the mittens that I was knitting. And these are the Snowberry Mittens by Kalura Hudson. There is no link in the show notes because sadly it is a pattern that is only available on Ravelry. So I do apologize. I think I had downloaded it a while ago because I like a lot of her patterns, but they're only available on Ravelry. So this is for a pair of mittens, and if you remember, I had almost finished the first mitten. It doesn't have a thumb. It is a pattern that is basically some simple cabling. It's like 1x1 cables, and then they have some baubles that you make with a crochet hook, and I was doing this to use up some yarn that I had and to make myself a cozy project. What I have is Malabrigo Rios in Reflecting Pool. This is left over from my niece's sweater. I had a skein and a bit, and then I had about a half a skein or 2/3 of a skein left over of some Surrey silk lace from when I knit my sorrel last year in November, I think. And so I had a little bit of that, and together they just make super squishy, lovely mittens. So I had finished the first mitten before we talked, and I had actually even gotten the ribbing done on the second, but now I am partway through the hand, and I still have to push all the baubles out and make them look nice, but I am partway through the second mitten. I literally just took off for the thumb gusset, so I have the top of the mitten to do, and then I'll have 2 thumbs. So my hope is that I will actually finish these this week. I think I will, as long as the work project doesn't overtake everything, but I'll talk more about that in a bit. If not, I will have these done in 2 weeks for sure, just in time to not need them anymore, so I guess they'll just go in the drawer till next week. Maybe that's why I got sidetracked off mittens. It stopped being cold. When I started these, it was below 0 here for a couple weeks on end. So yeah. So that is where I'm at with those. And I don't have a lot more to say. I'm knitting them per pattern, not making any changes, and they are designed for a women's roughly medium size. They're a little bit big on me, and I do have small hands, but they're not huge on me. So I would say if you do this pattern, just be careful and or switch needle sizes, or go up a yarn size so that you get slightly bigger mittens, because these do produce fairly tiny mittens, and they are only one size because the chart is only for the Snowberries. Now I will say that you could probably make them bigger by just adding more stitches at the edge and having the berry motif in the center of the hand, so I think you could do it pretty easily, but they are only for one size, and like I said, I'll put them on mine. So they're a little bit big on me. I've got, you know, maybe an extra ½ inch up at the top here, but they're not huge. So I would say that if you have larger hands, this is not necessarily the pattern for you, or you do want to mess with something, like I said, knit them in a slightly bigger yarn, or switch your needle size, or add more stitches here and maybe even at the top. So that's what I got going on there. So the last thing that I did is I cast on for a new project, and I told you I had this in mind, and I was hoping to maybe get to it this week, and I did. I cast it on this weekend, and I knit my first repeat through. That is, I am knitting a blanket, an Afghan, for my niece and, well, I guess technically now he's my nephew by marriage. My niece got married in the fall, and so I am knitting them a blanket. I'm planning to give it to them for their first wedding anniversary, which will be this coming fall. And so I started now so that I had time to work through it, and I chose their wedding colors. I chose to work this project in Barocco Comfort, which is 100% acrylic. It's acrylic and nylon, or 100% non-natural materials. It's acrylic and nylon, a 50-50 blend. And the reason that I did this is because they have 2 rescue pit bulls, and I expect that anything that I make them, you know, for them to cuddle in on their couch or in bed is probably going to involve the dogs as well. well. And if you have dogs, then it needs to be washable. It needs to kind of wear like iron. And so my hope was that this would wear very well. So I am using Berroco Comfort Worsted in 2 colors. This is licorice or licorice, and this is beetroot. And these are approximately, I think her wedding might have been slightly more burgundy, but really it's like black and a really dark red is what her wedding looked like. So I hope that this will be well received. The pattern that I'm knitting is the Mosaic Blanket, which is a free pattern on Purl Soho. I actually redid the charts because I didn't like the way their charts are. They have written directions and a chart, but it's a little bit hard to follow on the, I find it doesn't match typical charting conventions. So I went ahead and popped it into my chart maker and spit out a chart, and I will probably add that as a photo on my projects page on Ravelry just so that it's there for people who want to use it. But ultimately what it looks like, what the pattern looks like is this. So this is one repeat of the pattern. And it is basically going to be a mosaic, and I chose to use the red in the foreground and the black in the background. And I am making actually a size even a little bit larger even than the pattern calls for. The largest size, the pattern comes in 3 sizes, and it was baby up through like lap blanket, and lap blanket was I think 40 by 46. But these are adults, and I would like to make it a little wider and taller. So I'm probably gonna have to order more yarn, which is okay. That's fine. This is sort of an adjacent wedding gift, even though it's for their first anniversary. And so my plan is to work on this now to the fall. I'm sure you'll see this a million times more. My hope is to get 1 or 2 motifs done a week, and that should get me where I want to be by the fall. 1 motif is about 2 inches. So honestly, if I wanted to do like by 60, that would be 30 motifs. So if I do 2 motifs a week, that's 15 weeks. So it's not going to be that terrible. I would say the pattern is, once you get the pattern going, it's mostly intuitive because you can see where you want to slip and knit. And then basically it's, as many mosaic patterns are written, it's 2 rows for each line, and basically you knit and slip the same stitches both times. So the first row counts, you got to get everything correct in pattern, but on the way back you knit the knits and you slip the slips and you're done. So it's not entirely brainless knitting because I do have to remember to set it up correctly on the first row and then not just completely knit all the way back. So it's not as brainless as say garter stitch, but it's also, I wouldn't say it's like patterned on the back side because you're just following whatever you did on the front side. So if you're looking for a simple colorwork project, I actually do think this would be a great like first or second colorwork project because mosaic knitting, you're only knitting with 1 color at a time. You are just slipping the stitches that you're not working with. So that is what it looks like. I'm very excited about this, and hopefully, I don't know if I'll be bringing it back every week, but I will bring it back from time to time to show you kind of where I am on this. I do have other projects that I want to dig into. I still want to go back and do more feathers for my chicken. I have a tank top that I started, I have a hat that I started, and I'd like to do more mittens. So I'm going to fit those projects in as I can around where I can, because I would like to get that blanket done. I mean, it doesn't have to be done for several months, but I don't want to pick it up and put it down and pick it up and put it down and then have to rush at the end. I'd really like to be steadily working on it. And then this week is going to get a little bit blown apart by something else I have to do. So I volunteered. Technically, I did this to myself. I volunteered on Friday to create a piece for a photo shoot next week, which basically means I need to finish it this week and drive it up to headquarters on Friday. So what I am doing is I am creating a crochet rag rug out of fabric strips. And so they overnighted they FedExed the fabric strips to me, and today I am cutting, well, they didn't come in strips, they came in yardage. So today I am cutting the strips and sewing the strips together end to end, and then with a really, really large crochet hook, I'm going to be crocheting together a rug. Now I'm only doing kind of a doormat size, so probably 2 foot by 3 foot or 2.5 foot by 4 foot, so like not super big. It'll be rectangular. I expect that it's going to take me most of the week to do because fabric strips are cotton, and technically I'm actually working with denim strips, which it's denim fabric, so it is a little bit thinner than jeans fabric, and it has more stretch and give to it than regular jeans fabric does. So there's that, but it also is cotton. And so it doesn't pull like wool, so I expect that it's going to be kind of hard on my hands. So my plan is to try and crochet that in the next 4 nights, and do all the cutting and sewing today. And truthfully, because it's a work project, I'm just going to go ahead and work on it during work hours as much as I can. So hopefully I will get that done in time. I will try and take some pictures, although technically I don't even know if I'm allowed to share that because it's for an upcoming photo shoot and release in March or April. So I may end up holding on to it. You definitely will not see it because, like I said, the fabric came in this morning. I have to cut it, and then I have to assemble the whole thing and take it back to them on Friday. So it will never be a part of the podcast, but I will most likely take some photos, and then I can share it as a project a little bit later on. So that is going to be my focus for this week, getting that done and out, because like I said, it's kind of last minute, and it was just one of those things that they were like, let's send it to the sewing lab, and I said, the sewing lab doesn't crochet. Like, they can sew the strips together end to end, but the sewing lab doesn't crochet, and I don't even crochet that much, but it's a single crochet, basically like a granny square all the way around. So I can do it, and I'm confident enough in my skills that I can produce the product that they need for the photo shoot. If it were all for sewing, if it were like a piece to quilt, I would never. But yeah, so that's my exciting surprise this week. So the last thing that I have to show you is an itty bitty bit of spinning. I did break into my next braid this week, and this one was called Paint by Number by Hello Yarn, and it was a Tarhi bamboo silk blend. I think it was an 80-10-10, and it is in greens and lime, like highlighter greens and some brown and some blue, and you can only really see the highlighter greens. You can see a little bit of you can see a little bit of brown and blue there. It was inspired by Paint by Number collages, or Paint by Number if you did that when you were a kid, and it was inspired by like a forest sequence or a greenery sequence with horses and trees, and so that's where kind of the brown and then the blue from the sky comes in. So I have spun the first half. This is 2 ounces. I have spun 1 more ounce, and I still have 1 remaining ounce to spin. My plan is to finish that up and hopefully apply this week, but as I said, kind of everything is getting a little bit pushed aside for this project for work. So normally I spin on Wednesday evenings during knit night, and I'll just have to see how far I am on the crochet blanket to see. I probably will spin some because I don't think I can work on the crochet blanket for several hours, just because I don't think my hands will be good enough to do that. So I think I'll probably get some spinning in, but I don't know for sure whether or not I'll get this finished before I see you again. I hope so, but maybe not. So that's it for today. I know it's a little bit of a short episode, but I've got projects awaiting and I've got to get going on them. So I hope that you had a wonderful weekend, and that you're getting ready to start another great week, that you've got some crafty spirit, that you're working on some projects that you're enjoying. And I will say to you, as I always do, happy knitting, happy spinning, happy sipping, and I'll see you next week. Bye.